Okay everyone, here we are with block 1 of our 2020 quilt. We're going to start out real simple with just a basic 16 patch block, and our first technique that we're going to talk about today is making half square triangles with the draw, stitch, and cut method. Before we get into that, I just want to do a little bit of talking about our pattern for block 1. All of the patterns for this entire series are going to be based off of my red and white blocks, even though I'm going to show you some other colorways, and all of the patterns are going to have a secondary colorway. The instructions that I wrote are based off of this red and white block. So for this block today, we need to have 12 solid squares and then 4 squares for our white corners and 4 squares for our colored corners. So for our solid squares, I'm going to be working with these 6 red squares and these 6 gray squares. For my half square triangles, I'm going to be working with these 2 sets of the 3-inch squares. The first thing I need to do is place my 2 squares right sides together. And then I need to draw a line corner to corner. Now I need to go over to my sewing machine and I need to stitch a line on each side of this a 1/4 inch away from that center line. So I'm going to be stitching a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here. I do that by running this line straight underneath that 1/4 inch blade on the foot of my sewing machine. So I'm going to make sure that my line is underneath the blade of my foot. For those of you who don't know what chain piecing is, I'm going to leave this one hanging out the back of my foot. I can lift up my presser foot, I can add the next one in, and then continue sewing. It helps to prevent from the tails of your block getting sucked down into your bobbin case. And it also saves on some thread because you don't have all those tails hanging off. Now I can clip the first one, leave this one on the back, and now I can sew the other side of my line. Okay, so now I have both of my lines sewn on either side of my solid drawn line. I'm now going to take my ruler and I'm going to cut this right on that original drawn line. Oops. Of course. And there are my half square triangles. So I'll have 4 half square triangles. I'm going to press them to the dark side. So I'll have 2 of them that are black and red and 2 that are black and gray. Okay. With my instructions, I had you cut 3-inch squares. That is a slightly bigger than you need, so it's going to give you a little bit of room to square these blocks up perfectly to the right size. For squaring up, I'm going to watch my diagonal line and have that running straight down the center of my sewn line. And I'm going to make sure that my 2.5 inch lines are slightly into my fabric. Now I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to line up my diagonal line on my ruler once again with that center diagonal line. This time I'm going to make sure that my 2.5 inch marks are right on that edge that I just cut, and I'm going to trim off the other two sides. And there I have a perfectly squared up 2.5 inch block. I'm going to continue that with the remaining 3 blocks. Okay, so I have all of my half square triangles squared up to 2.5 inches, and now I can start working with my 2.5 inch squares. According to the pattern, I need to make 2 sets that are medium color 1 and medium color 2 sewn together. And then I need to make 2 sets that have 4 of them sewn together. Okay, so again, this is a great time to chain piece because I can just do chain piecing of these segments and then come back and add 2 of them together. All right, so first I'm going to start by sewing 1 of each color into a set. And again, I'm just going to let that hang out the back, and I'm going to continue sewing my pieces together. All right, so here's my chain. I can now just take my scissors, clip in between, separate them. So 2 of these sets I don't need to do any more with. I'm going to set those aside. Then I need to take and sew 2 sets of 4. So I'm going to open this up. And I need to sew again gray, red, gray, red. Okay, I can go and press these open, and then I'm ready to start assembling my block. Okay, so if we look back to our pattern, my row of 4 blocks, I need to have one with my darkest to the left side and the other one with my lighter color to the left side. And then I need to take one of my 2 patches, and obviously they need to be oriented so that they're opposite colors. And now I need to add my half square triangles into my corners. So I need to make sure that for this one my black is to the outside, and I want to have a gray one on this side and a red one on this side. Again, the red one next to the grays and the gray ones next to the reds. So now I need to finish sewing these 2 rows, and then I'm just going to sew these 4 rows together. Eventually I'll end up with my block that looks just like this one. So this was our finished red and white square. I also have some other sets. This was the square that I ended up making with my 12 fat quarter assortment. And then this was the square that I made just out of my stash. So every block I'm going to be showing you my red square, which is the square you're going to be following the pattern with, my square that I made with a more scrappy but yet coordinated look, and then my square that I made out of my stash. They're going to be all over the place, all different colors. It doesn't mean that you need to put them all in the same quilt. We're going to be showing you different settings throughout this series. That's going to give you ideas of using 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 blocks in smaller projects.